All right, welcome to DET220 3D modeling. We're just going to start with a really quick overview of Maya 2016, with a short, simple project to get you on your way. So I've got Maya here. It's a brand new install. Should be exactly what you have on your computers. And quick little pop-up saying all the new features in 2016 are highlighted. I'd like to leave that on. And first thing we're going to do is go into Maya and File and to our project window. So click that. Our current project is default, and so this project window basically sets up new folders for each one of your projects, so you don't have files and things just tumbling all over each other in one folder. We're going to go ahead and start a new project. I call it Building Blocks. Accept that, and then we're going to go ahead and set that as our current project. And now we're good to go. When we go ahead and save this later, it'll go in the proper place. So this is Maya. Right now we've got a 3D window here, everything in perspective, and then we've got this other cool little thing over here where it shows us a bunch of flat perspectives in addition to our 3D perspective. Probably the first thing we're going to do is make sure we're on modeling. So one thing to note up here in this top left-hand corner is we've got a number of different sub-menus. And if you see the top bar here, some of those will change as we select different modes for Maya. We're going to stay in modeling right now and on polygons, and what we're going to do is just drag out a bunch of these simple shapes as kind of building blocks. So one of our first tricks is I'm going to go ahead and click in the perspective window. You can see it highlights just a little bit around there and hit spacebar. And now I've got that maximized in my view. Spacebar again, we'll go back and forth. So we'll just start by creating a few objects. So if I just click on the cube, it drops a cube there at the origin point, at the center of our universe. Drag that over, and if I click on sphere, same thing. So this is kind of an automatic creation tool, and it just drops everything at origin, and then you can move them around. Right, there's the start of our building blocks. One thing that you may find helpful or not, depending on your preferences, is if we go to create here and go to polygon primitives, we can turn on interactive creation. So I'm just going to check that really quick. And I'm going to go ahead and make a cube again. And this time it didn't just plop one down in the center of our screen, but now I've got to click and drag out the base of it, right? And it drags out at 0 right on the ground, and then pull it up to our desired height. So that's one way to make something a little more organically. Now, if I turn that off, turn off interactive creation, I can achieve the same effect once I've dropped this cube here by setting its, say its width, its height, depth, right? So we can type in here, we can get bigger objects, but it's still hovered around the center of the screen. So what we're going to do is basically just make a bunch of these little objects. So I think we've done most of these. There's a plane I can drop out in the center. This is a scaling tool here. So we've got these different axes to move back and forth. This so if I drag on the line and the arrow, it goes either up, down, or to one direction or another, right? Just along one axis. And then these little squares here, I can drag along two different axes. So that's movement, which comes in by default. Some other things to note are scaling. So same thing, I can scale along one axis or two. So we're going to make a big ground plane here. And if you notice on the plane, I've got a whole lot of lines through here. These are the different subdivisions. We can cut those down. Just have a simple plane. We can grab objects that we had before and pull them up over the plane. And just kind of move stuff around. So we can move, we can scale. When I grab from the center, we scale on all three axes, so it's a full scale. Move. And finally, we can rotate with this tool over here. So you see that highlighted. And I can rotate along each local axis. Or kind of grab somewhere in the middle and go crazy. Alright, so this looks just like building blocks. First time we're in daycare, preschool, kindergarten, whatever, and we just start dragging building blocks around and throwing them on the ground, and now we just got a big mess. A few other shapes we have. We've got this torus or donut. That'll be fun. Got a pyramid. Scaling it up. Pull it up above the ground plane. So that's fun. Now, I'll show some movement around in Maya. Hopefully you've got a 3-button mouse hooked up. If you don't, I recommend getting one. Just your 2-button trackpad on your laptop, or a 2-button mouse if you happen to have one of those, is not going to be sufficient for this. So the 3-button mouse, if you hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and then left click, we kind of rotate around the center of the screen to view different objects. All right, I can see I've got a number of things sitting below the ground plane, dipped into the ground. Go ahead and pull that up. Now holding down the Alt key and using the middle mouse button, we can pan back and forth, kind of slide the scene around, but kind of keeping it somewhat straight. So that's helpful if you've got a very large scene, you need to move around and grab something. And then finally holding down the Alt key on your keyboard and using the left key, and the left mouse button, you can zoom in and out. So as our building blocks start to grow and our scene gets bigger, these are all very helpful things. One other thing to note, a keyboard shortcut that's going to come in handy is if you want to zoom in on something. All right, I'm going to select this sphere. I'm going to push the F key, and that kind of focuses in on whatever object I've got selected. Now with nothing selected, I hit F, and it zooms out so I can see everything. All right, that's a good start with just what we have available to us. Looks like our tube shape didn't get created. We can go ahead and make one of those, drag that over, down. Looks like my ground plane isn't quite on the ground. Well, we can fix that. So hitting the space bar gets me back into these other views, right? And so this is the really cool 3D view. But a straight on side view, I can see along the side here, this bold line, on this grid is our point of origin. And we can see that our ground plane is above the origin. So it's kind of hovering over where we want it to be. So I can do this a number of ways. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. So I've right-clicked inside this front view as it's labeled, and I can hit spacebar again, get more control and view in there, and then slide that down. I can see it's over the bold line. Go ahead and make that centered. So that's back at origin. Another way I could have done that is just in this translate window, hit 0 and 0, set that to 0, and now we're absolutely back at origin. So I'm going to go back to our 3D view, clicking and hitting spacebar. Well, did not mean to do whatever that was. So just Command Z like you would anywhere else. All right, so we've got some cool objects. We can drag them out, stack them up, do whatever, but they're all the same. So the next thing we're going to look at is our Hypershade editor, which makes our materials. So this button right up here looks like perhaps a billiard ball. We can click on that, and we get our Hypershade window. And so these are all the different materials and colors and textures we can put on our 3D objects. By default, we get this lambert 1, and everything that we create gets this default texture on it. So if we change that lambert 1, say we changed its color to some obnoxious green or something, then everything we just created is now obnoxious green. So ordinarily what we do is we leave that alone. Don't mess with the default. Undo that using Command Z. And I'm just going to go ahead and make some new lamberts. I just scrolled past it. So clicking on this here in lambert gives me a new one. I'm going to make a few of them. I'm going to make 4 new ones. And then I'm just going to start adding color and renaming. So we've got a bunch of presets up here. I'm just going to make this one red. I'm going to name it M for material, red. Do a couple more. M blue. Make this one yellow. It's important to name them, as you'll see soon. And we'll do green. All the cool building block colors. All right, that done, we could do a whole lot more here, but we'll save that for later. We've got some colors. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this and start selecting objects. So I've got my ground plane here. Going to right click. Oh my goodness, what is all that? Don't panic, don't panic. It's okay. We're only going to worry about one of these right now. Scroll down toward the bottom, assign existing material, and we can select one of our newly named materials. We're going to go ahead and make this green. Can select a number of different things, right? So I hold down the Shift button, and then I can select, I've got 3 objects selected here. And do the same thing. Assign existing material, we'll make those red. And yellow. Make these green. I'm going to go ahead and change our ground plane back to the plain gray lambert default color. So now that looks more like building blocks. We've got a whole 3D scene. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn back on my interactive creation. And then I'm going to slide some of these out of the way and start making some different things. So what I really want out of this particular video and assignment is just to get familiar, have some fun, make something cool. All right, I'm going to start with just a cube. Then I'll do a pyramid. And I kind of drag Okay, the interactive creation on that wasn't quite as interactive as the cube. So that's huge. All right, let's pull that up. It's automatically positioned like some kind of an Egyptian pyramid. So I'm going to rotate that around. Kind of place that over the cube. And we'll make that red. I'm going to go to Hypershade. I'm going to make a new lambert. Call this one white. And I've got autosave on. So it's been a few minutes. Autosave just saved a copy of my current scene and is giving me this neat little dialogue. You can tell it to go away. It's fine. Oh, that's exciting. So we've crashed. Go ahead and send that report along. We don't care about that. Reopen Maya. So hopefully that auto-saved what we were working on, or we have to start all over. So I'm in the default. Let me go to my building blocks project and look in the autosave folder, and it's not there. Autosave didn't save. And nothing in scenes. So we lost everything. That's exciting. Lost our materials as well. Let that be a lesson to you. All right. I'm going to get caught up with myself. Okay, we're back. I redid most of the work that we just did. Drew out some random objects. Put out that cube with the pyramid on top, which, surprise, looks kind of like a house. I think it's one of the first things we ever did with our building blocks as kids. And of course I redid all my colors in the Hypershade editor. So I've got my blue, my green, my red, white, yellow. It's all good. I believe I still have interactive creation on, so I'm going to make some more cubes. Kind of drag up the standard block shape. Do a couple more of those. Roughly that size. And one more. And undo, that didn't quite create the way I wanted it to. There we go. You know, that's one of the other things that seems to be a staple of building blocks is the Stonehenge looking tunnel. I'm going to go ahead and color these up. Looks just the way I remember it. All right, so that's interactive object creation, materials, placement, rotating. One other thing we can look at right here is along this side here we've got our buttons for full screen or our 4-panel layout. The one below it gives us this cool little list of all of our objects. So if I had a completely cluttered scene or was looking for something in particular, I could just grab it here and say give me the cone, and then it selects for me. So that's really helpful if you get a very large scene with a lot of stuff in it. I'm going to go back, and one last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some very simple keyframe animations in Maya. We're not going to get too deep into this, but just enough to have some fun. So right along the bottom here is our time slider. There's nothing going on as I click and drag this bar around. But what we can do is start to create some animation. So I've got my blue block here, and I'm going to come out to about frame 10, and I'm going to come up top here and hit this animation tab and this funny looking T thing, and I'm going to set a key. And so that basically establishes this frame as kind of our starting point for this block. I'll come out a ways to roughly 80 here, and I'm going to move this block. So let's move him over here. Let's move him to the top of Stonehenge. Ish. There we go. And I'm going to set another key. Now you can see as I drag back, we've created an animation between those frames. But he goes right through the house. He's kind of ghosting. So let's go about halfway over, and we'll pull him up. Like that. Now I'm going to set another key right there in the middle. Now you can see he jumps up over the house and then arcs down to land on Stonehenge. Pretty cool stuff. All right, we're going to mix that up just a little bit, and we're going to say as he gets to the apex of his jump, let's do some rotations. He's doing a spinning jump. So I could just drag this around a bunch, or if you see over on the side here, I can adjust this directly. And let's say he's doing a full 360-degree spin by the time he gets to the top there. I'll set another key right here. And he's doing a really cool spinning flip up to the apex of that jump. And then he starts to flip backwards to land back at the 0 rotation he had at that other frame. So that looks kind of weird. So I'm going to go back to the end to 80 here. And where before he had gone 360 to get to the top, let's double that. He's doing 720 along the X rotation. And set that key. Cool button. Now he's just doing a continuous flipping jump. Up over the house, spins around again, lands perfectly atop Stonehenge. And we can come down here, we can just hit this play button and just watch it happen over and over again. So that's it. So that's object creation, that's materials and colors, and that's keyframe animation. What I want you to do is create a similar scene to this using just the primitives. Come over here to polygons. So make sure you have at least one or two of each of these objects. Let's say at least one to fill that requirement, and then as many more of whatever you need to do. So at least one of each object, color them accordingly with Hypershade, and let's animate at least 2 objects in that scene. And then once you get something like this, complete it as a scene. We'll go ahead and save it. I've already saved this once as blocks intro. I'll just go ahead and save that right into our project folder that we set. Replace what I've got. So save that and get me that .mb file uploaded to Canvas. And then we'll have some more fun and build more upon this in our next class.